Lisa, a woman of 32, had always assumed the mantle of the responsible older sister to Rebecca. Their childhood had been a tapestry of shared dreams and whispered secrets, a bond so tight it seemed unbreakable. When Rebecca announced her engagement, Lisa's excitement knew no bounds. She was ecstatic to accept the role of Maid of Honor. With boundless energy and financial generosity, she poured thousands of dollars and countless hours into orchestrating what she envisioned as Rebecca's perfect day. Yet, familial relationships, particularly those involving their mother, Deborah, who wielded considerable influence, proved to be complex terrain. Lisa could never have predicted the moment her mother would look her in the eye and deliver words that felt like a physical blow. For those navigating their own family dramas, this narrative might offer a flicker of understanding, a spark of resilience. Growing up, Lisa naturally stepped into the role of Rebecca's guardian and guide. From teaching her the simplest skills to helping her navigate the intricate social landscape of adolescence, Lisa was a steadfast presence. Their mother, Deborah, made no secret of her favoritism. Rebecca, with her artistic flair and vivacious spirit, was the lauded golden child, while Lisa was seen as the pragmatic one, needing to lighten up. Their father, Thomas, largely remained on the periphery, consistently prioritizing domestic tranquility over confronting his wife's often crossing behavioral lines. As the eldest and ostensibly most capable child, Lisa became the default resolver of family issues, quietly stepping in to manage finances or handle household repairs, often dipping into her own savings. This pattern persisted into their adult lives, with Lisa financially supporting Rebecca through her art history degree when parental contributions fell short. Lisa's own career path led her to a position as a financial consultant at a prestigious firm in Boston, a reality she found wryly ironic, managing multi-million-dollar portfolios professionally while still expected to oversee her family's financial complexities. Nevertheless, she found genuine fulfillment in supporting Rebecca's aspirations. When Rebecca met James Wilson at an art gallery 3 years prior, Lisa immediately sensed a perfect match. James, despite his affluent background, possessed a grounded nature, appreciating Rebecca's artistic sensibility and championing her career goals. Their engagement 2 years later was expected, and Lisa was the first person Rebecca excitedly called. "Lisa, he proposed. You're going to be my maid of honor, right? I can't do this without you." Rebecca's voice brimmed with joy that crisp December morning. Lisa readily agreed, her mind already racing with ideas to help realize her sister's wedding vision. The initial planning phase unfolded as Lisa had anticipated. Weekends were spent with Rebecca exploring venues, discussing color palettes, and curating inspiration boards. Lisa meticulously documented every detail, determined to manifest Rebecca's vision. Her apartment gradually became a repository of bridal magazines and fabric samples. The first hint of discord surfaced during what was intended to be a straightforward family dinner to discuss the wedding budget. Their mother arrived holding an unfamiliar wedding planner. "I've already placed deposits at the Clayton Hotel," she announced preemptively. "They had a rare summer date available, so I secured it." Rebecca appeared surprised but pleased. "Mom, that's incredibly generous, but Lisa and I were still evaluating venues." Deborah gently patted Rebecca's hand, casting a triumphant glance towards Lisa. "Darling, the Clayton book's up years in advance. We were fortunate to get a cancellation. Besides, I've always envisioned your wedding there." This marked the beginning of a series of decisions made unilaterally. Within weeks, their mother had transitioned from an occasional participant to the de facto wedding orchestrator. Vendors Lisa had carefully vetted were dismissed in favor of her mother's acquaintances' recommendations. The color scheme Rebecca and Lisa had lovingly chosen was summarily deemed too muted. "It's all right," Rebecca had reassured Lisa when she voiced her concerns. "Mom is really enjoying this, and it simplifies things. Plus, she and Dad are contributing significantly." Lisa swallowed her reservations and withdrew slightly, continuing to offer support where possible but increasingly feeling like an observer. This sense of detachment deepened when her cousin Megan began appearing in planning photographs on social media. Megan, who had always seemed keen to infiltrate the family's inner circle, was now accompanying Rebecca and her mother to vendor appointments from which Lisa was excluded. One Instagram post depicted Megan holding color swatches against bridesmaid dress options, a task Lisa had assumed would fall to her as maid of honor. Rebecca seems to be spending more time with Megan lately, Lisa mentioned casually to her boyfriend Tyler one evening while scrolling through another photo of them at a cake tasting. Perhaps it's just that Megan has more availability, Tyler, ever the voice of reason, suggested. You've been exceptionally busy with work this quarter. Lisa acknowledged his point, trying to suppress a growing unease. Surely, 3 decades of shared history couldn't be undone by a few weeks of wedding planning, could they? Yet, as spring advanced, invitations to planning events ceased entirely. When Lisa reached out to Rebecca, her sister's responses became increasingly evasive and brief. In-depth discussions about centerpieces and music were replaced by curt texts. Mom's handling it or already figured it out. Simultaneously, Lisa continued to invest financially in the wedding, quietly covering the deposit for a photographer. Rebecca adored, but their mother deemed too expensive, ordering bespoke welcome baskets for out-of-town guests, and secretly arranging what she hoped would be the ultimate wedding gift: a lavish honeymoon to Bali, complete with first-class travel and a private ocean view villa. She clung to the belief that normalcy would resume after the wedding, that this stressful period would pass, and she and Rebecca would eventually laugh about their mother's takeover over wine in Rebecca's new home. She had no inkling how profoundly mistaken she was, or how quickly the situation would escalate beyond anything she had imagined. The day Lisa discovered she had been excluded from wedding dress shopping felt like a physical blow. The revelation came unexpectedly from a coworker, Natalie, who happened to be acquainted with the boutique owner. "How was Rebecca's appointment yesterday? Sandra mentioned your sister found the one right away." Lisa froze, her coffee cup suspended midair. "What appointment?" Natalie's cheerful expression faltered, replaced by discomfort. "Oh, at Elegant Moments. Sandra said your mom, sister, and cousin spent hours there with champagne. I just assumed you were present." Lisa mumbled something about an unexpected work emergency and retreated to the restroom, where she stared at her reflection, trying to process the deliberate exclusion from such a significant moment. She and Rebecca had dreamed of this day since they were teenagers, using pillowcases as impromptu veils, promising to be present for each other's milestones. That evening, Lisa called Rebecca, her voice carefully modulated. "How was dress shopping?" A pause. "Oh, it just happened so quickly. Mom had an appointment and it wasn't supposed to be the actual shopping day, just a preliminary look with Megan." Another pause. "She was available and we needed a third opinion." "I could have made myself available," Lisa stated quietly. "You could have asked." "Lisa, please don't make this a drama. There will be countless other wedding activities you can participate in." But the promised opportunities never materialized. The bridal shower was orchestrated without her input, although she was expected to contribute financially to the venue. The bachelorette party planning was commandeered by Megan, who selected a destination Lisa knew wasn't truly Rebecca's preference. When Lisa offered suggestions based on 3 decades of knowing her sister, they were dismissed as reflecting what Rebecca wanted before. Despite this, Lisa persisted in her support from the periphery. She finalized the honeymoon arrangements, committing Batsen by Mayen for first-class flights, luxurious accommodation, and unique experiences tailored to the couple's interests. She envisioned presenting the surprise at the rehearsal dinner, imagining Rebecca's delight, the embrace, and the restoration of their sisterly connection. Meanwhile, the emotional distance between them widened. Rebecca began declining their customary Sunday brunches, each time with a different excuse. When they did speak, their conversations felt superficial, devoid of the deep intimacy they had always shared. "Is everything all right between us?" Lisa finally asked directly after 3 weeks of increasingly sporadic communication. "Everything's fine. I'm just incredibly busy with wedding details," Rebecca replied, avoiding eye contact. "Mom has been incredibly helpful managing everything." At a family gathering in May, merely 2 months before the wedding, Lisa overheard a conversation that sent a chill down her spine. Stepping into the kitchen to refill her water glass, she heard her name mentioned from the adjacent dining room. "Lisa has always been challenging," her mother's voice carried clearly. "Rebecca is finally realizing it now. She always needs to be in control, to make everything about her accomplishments. It must be difficult for Rebecca. Megan's voice dripped with feigned sympathy, especially during her wedding when she should be the focal point. Precisely. That's why we've had to restrict her involvement, for Rebecca's own good. Lisa stood frozen, water overflowing her glass as their words penetrated. Her own mother was actively orchestrating her exclusion from her sister's wedding, painting her as a selfish, attention-seeking figure to anyone who would listen. That night, Lisa confided in Tyler, finally articulating the fears she had suppressed for months. What if they don't even want me at the wedding anymore? What if all this distancing is leading to something far worse? Tyler held her close, his steady presence a comfort against her trembling frame. That's impossible. You are Rebecca's sister, and you have done nothing but support her. But what if Mom has convinced her otherwise? You don't understand how manipulative she can be, how she distorts everything. Then you need to communicate directly with Rebecca, Tyler stated firmly. No more speculation, no more hoping things will improve spontaneously. You must have a frank conversation about what is transpiring. He was right. The situation had deteriorated too profoundly for passive acceptance. Lisa texted Rebecca the following morning. Need to discuss wedding and our relationship. Can we meet tomorrow? Her response arrived hours later, swamped with wedding stuff. Come to Mom and Dad's on Thursday at 7. We can talk then. The ensuing 5 days felt interminable. Lisa rehearsed her words, practicing how to calmly articulate her hurt without resorting to accusations. She reminded herself that Rebecca might be caught in the middle, pressured by their mother's formidable personality. She arrived at her parents' home that Thursday evening, her heart a mix of hope for reconciliation and a yearning for clarity. She had no way of knowing she was walking into a carefully planned ambush that would shatter her relationship with her family and force her to redefine concepts of loyalty and self-respect. The evening air was unusually still as Lisa parked outside her parents' familiar colonial-style home that Thursday. The driveway where she and Rebecca had played hopscotch felt foreign. She checked her reflection, smoothed her blouse, and took a fortifying breath before approaching the front door. Her mother answered before she could even knock, her expression inscrutable. "We're in the living room," she stated curtly, turning without waiting for a reply. The scene inside felt meticulously arranged. Her father sat in his usual chair, looking uncomfortable and pale. Rebecca perched on the edge of the sofa, eyes downcast, her fingers twisting in her lap. Her mother positioned herself standing behind Rebecca, one hand resting on the sofa back in a seemingly protective gesture. And there, occupying the spot Lisa typically took during family discussions, sat Megan, radiating a peculiar mix of smugness and feigned concern. "What's happening?" Lisa asked, remaining standing when no one offered her a seat. "Rebecca, I believed we were going to discuss the wedding." "That is precisely why we are all assembled," her mother interjected before Rebecca could speak. "There is something you need to comprehend regarding the wedding." A strange tranquility settled over Lisa, the eerie calm before an inevitable storm. "We have been conferring," her mother continued, her voice adopting the condescending tone she had perfected over decades, "and we are all in agreement that your involvement in the wedding has become problematic." "Problematic?" Lisa echoed, directing her gaze at Rebecca, who still avoided her eyes. "Your need to exert control, your compulsion to make everything revolve around yourself," her mother enumerated points on her fingers as if reviewing a shopping list. "The manner in which you have attempted to overshadow Rebecca's special occasion with your opinions and your financial contributions." Lisa felt disoriented, as though she had stumbled into an alternate reality. "Rebecca," she prompted, a desperate plea for her sister to speak for herself. Rebecca finally raised her head, her expression a blend of guilt and practiced resolve. "It has been incredibly stressful, Lisa. Every time you become involved, tension arises." Mom believes, I repeated softly. "What do you believe, Rebecca?" Before her sister could answer, her mother stepped forward, partially shielding Rebecca. "What Rebecca believes is that her wedding should be a joyous event, and frankly, your presence would render that impossible." The room seemed to subtly shift as the weight of her mother's words registered. "My presence during the planning, you mean?" Her mother's lips curved into what could only be described as a smirk, satisfaction glinting in her eyes at delivering the blow she had meticulously planned for months. "We are all in agreement. You are not invited to the wedding," she stated, articulating each word with deliberate emphasis, savoring its impact. "Not as maid of honor, not as a bridesmaid, not as a guest. It is for the best, for everyone." The ensuing silence was profound. Lisa could hear the antique clock on the mantel ticking, each second stretching into an eternity. Her father shifted in his chair but remained silent. Megan had the grace to lower her gaze, and Rebecca, her sister, her closest companion since birth, sat in silent complicity, effectively severing 3 decades of sisterhood. "I understand," Lisa finally said, surprised by the steadiness of her own voice. "And when was this decision reached?" "We have been moving in this direction for months," her mother replied, clearly pleased by Lisa's composed reaction, mistaking shock for acquiescence. "Rebecca asked Megan to be her maid of honor weeks ago. We simply needed to formalize it." Lisa turned to Megan, who now met her gaze with a challenging look. "Congratulations," Lisa said flatly. "It's nothing personal," Megan responded, the lie evident. Lisa almost laughed at the sheer absurdity. Nothing personal about being replaced in her sister's wedding, in her sister's life. "Rebecca," she attempted one last time, "is this genuinely what you desire?" Her mother answered again, "Rebecca desires a wedding free of conflict. You have consistently been too controlling, too opinionated. Everything must conform to your expectations. The venue was inadequate. The caterer failed to meet your standards." "That is untrue, and you are aware of it," Lisa interrupted, feeling the first fissure appear in her carefully constructed composure. "I have supported every decision, even when I was not consulted. I have contributed thousands of dollars without being requested." "See, there it is," her mother accused, pointing a finger. "Flaunting your money, using your financial contributions to dictate the wedding. That is precisely why you cannot be present." Lisa looked at her father, a silent plea for him to intervene, to say anything. He met her eyes fleetingly, then looked away, his lifelong pattern of conflict avoidance prevailing. A strange calm settled over her once more, followed by a piercing clarity that cut through the hurt and confusion. This was not a misunderstanding. This was not a situation amenable to heartfelt conversation. This was a calculated exclusion, meticulously planned over months. "Good to know," she stated simply. She turned and walked towards the door, her movements feeling automatic. Behind her, she heard Rebecca softly call her name once, but no footsteps followed. No one attempted to stop her. The drive home was a blur, streetlights smeared like watercolors through the unexpected tears that clouded her vision. She pulled over twice when the road became too indistinct to navigate safely. Her phone buzzed incessantly with incoming messages, but she couldn't bring herself to look at them. When she finally reached her apartment, Tyler was waiting, his face reflecting hopeful anticipation that crumbled the moment he saw her. "What transpired?" he asked, immediately drawing her into a hug. The entire story spilled out in disjointed fragments amidst her sobs. The ambush, her mother's cruel satisfaction, Rebecca's perceived betrayal, her father's silence, Megan's apparent triumph. "They cannot do this," Tyler declared when she finished, outrage evident in his voice. "You are her sister. You have offered nothing but support." "Apparently, that holds no significance," Lisa whispered, emotional exhaustion beginning to weigh heavily. "Mom has been engineering this for months, poisoning Rebecca against me, portraying me as some sort of villain." "What do you intend to do?" Tyler asked, his hand warm against hers. Lisa stared out the window at the city lights below, feeling hollowed out, yet strangely lighter, as though the worst had occurred, and now she could begin to reconstruct. "I don't know yet," she admitted, "but I do know I deserve better than this. All of this." What she failed to grasp at that moment was that the confrontation that evening was not the conclusion to the story. It was merely the preamble to what would follow, revealing both deeper betrayals and an unforeseen path toward healing in the days to come. Sleep remained elusive that night. Lisa lay awake, replaying the scene at her parents' house, scrutinizing every word, every glance, searching for any potential misinterpretation. But the indelible image of her mother's satisfied smirk as she delivered her verdict left no room for ambiguity. By 4 a.m, she had abandoned the attempt at sleep entirely. Sitting at her kitchen table, a forgotten cup of tea growing cold beside her, she began compiling a list of all she had contributed to Rebecca's wedding. The photographer's deposit, May 1. Custom welcome baskets for out-of-town guests, Babay Mayan. The string quartet she had secretly arranged for the ceremony, 10. The list expanded as she recalled smaller expenditures: the vintage hairpin that complemented Rebecca's grandmother's earrings, the calligrapher hired for the place cards after Rebecca expressed her fondness for hand lettering. And then there was the honeymoon, the culmination of her gifts to her sister and James. First-class airfare to Bali, Sitan Arbemayan, the private ocean view villa, Santembabayan, the special experiences she had arranged, a private cooking class, a sunset cruise, a guided trek to hidden waterfalls, totaling Dopay Mayan. She had invested over Yuan Wuten Mayuan in a wedding from which she was now barred. Dawn was just breaking as Lisa reached her decision. She opened her laptop and accessed her banking application. With steady fingers, she transferred the Bachen Nopay Mayuan designated for the honeymoon back into her personal account. Next, she logged onto the airline and resort websites, systematically canceling each reservation. She sent a concise professional email to the travel agent handling the special experiences, explaining that the plans had changed. Her phone had intermittently buzzed throughout the night with incoming calls and texts, but she hadn't checked it. Now, she reviewed the notifications. 3 missed calls from Rebecca, 12 from her mother, even 1 from her father, which was highly unusual. There were numerous texts, primarily from her mother, ranging from defensive, "You are once again making this about yourself," to accusatory, "After everything we have done for you," none containing any hint of remorse or reconsideration. Lisa made one final call, this time to her credit card company. "I need to report some unauthorized charges," she explained to the representative. "Family members have been making purchases without my consent." It wasn't a complete fabrication, nor was it entirely truthful. She had never explicitly authorized her mother to utilize her card details for the additional wedding favors ordered last month or the upgraded linens her mother had insisted upon. By 7 a.m., she had methodically severed her financial ties to Rebecca's wedding. She sent a brief email to her supervisor requesting a personal day, then turned off her phone completely. The abrupt silence felt both terrifying and liberating. She spent the morning walking through the public gardens, attempting to process the enormity of what had occurred. The betrayal felt visceral, a physical ache beneath her ribs that intensified with each breath. She and Rebecca had shared everything for 30 years. Secrets, aspirations, sorrows, triumphs. How could her sister sit silently while their mother banished her from the wedding? How could she be replaced by Megan, of all people? Around noon, she met her closest friend, Olivia, for lunch. She hadn't planned to disclose everything, but one look at her face, and Olivia knew something was profoundly amiss. "They did what?" Olivia exclaimed, loud enough that nearby tables turned to look. "Your own mother said that to your face?" Lisa nodded, pushing salad around her plate untouched, and Rebecca just sat there, utterly silent. Olivia's outrage provided validation after hours spent battling self-doubt. She tried to speak a couple of times, but Mom kept interrupting, and she didn't try to stop any of it, so Lisa trailed off, the hurt still too raw to fully articulate. Olivia reached across the table and took her hand. "Lisa, there's something you should be aware of. I hesitated to tell you before because I didn't want to cause you distress, but I believe you need to hear it now." Lisa's stomach tightened. "What is it?" "Your mother has been circulating rumors about you for months now." Olivia looked uncomfortable. "At Rebecca's engagement party, she confided in my mother that you were resentful of Rebecca's happiness, and at the Williams dinner party last month, she mentioned how concerned everyone was about your fragile emotional state and how the family was walking on eggshells around you." Lisa stared at her, stunned. "What? Why would she say such things?" "I'm not certain, but she has been subtly planting these seeds with everyone in your social sphere. Small remarks, looks of concern. Nothing overtly malicious, just enough to cultivate this impression that you are somehow unstable, difficult." Olivia squeezed her hand. "I refuted it whenever I heard it, but I wasn't everywhere." Her mother's voice echoed in Lisa's memory. Your need to exert control, your compulsion to make everything revolve around yourself. She hadn't merely been turning Rebecca against her, she had been systematically undermining her reputation within their shared community. But why? Lisa whispered, more to herself than to Olivia. What does she stand to gain from this? Control, Olivia stated simply. You are accomplished, independent, financially secure. You possess qualities she never did. My mother always observed that your mother seemed envious of you, even when we were children. The disparate pieces began to coalesce into a coherent pattern, illuminating decades of subtle cruelties and manipulations Lisa had normalized or excused. The times her mother had forgotten to inform her of family events. The backhanded compliments about her career. It's remarkable you've achieved so much without a husband to provide for you. The way she subtly reminded Rebecca of every perceived childhood slight, while overlooking the extensive support Lisa had provided. I've been so naive, Lisa finally said. You have been a daughter who wished to believe the best about her mother, Olivia gently corrected. That is not naivety, that is love. By the time Lisa returned home that afternoon, she felt altered, still wounded but with a newfound clarity regarding what was happening and the necessary steps to take. She reactivated her phone and watched as notifications flooded in, 28 missed calls in total, voicemails ranging from her mother's icy fury to her father's awkward attempts at mediation, and one message from Rebecca, sent at 3:42 a.m., that changed everything. I'm so sorry, Lisa. Mom has been lying to me about you for months. James and I just found out what she did with the honeymoon reservations. Please call me, please, I need my sister back. Lisa stared at Rebecca's message for a prolonged moment, her thumb hovering over the call button. The raw emotion conveyed in the text felt authentic. But after months of manipulation and the previous day's brutal confrontation, she wasn't prepared to plunge back into the chaos without a deeper understanding. The other messages painted a picture of family implosion. Her mother's voicemails escalated from self-righteously indignant, "How dare you cancel the honeymoon after presenting it as a gift?" to threatening, "You have left me no alternative but to disclose your behavior to everyone," to a strained attempt at reconciliation. "We can still rectify this if you offer an apology." Her father's messages were fewer and more subdued. "Your mother is very distraught," he said in one background noise, suggesting he was calling from his car to avoid being overheard. "I was unaware of the full extent of this until yesterday. Please call when you are able." Other family members had begun to weigh in. Her uncle Robert, a perennial ally of her mother's, left a stern lecture about respecting parents. Her grandmother, in her frail voice, inquired if she was feeling well, clearly having received her mother's version of events. But there were also unexpected voices of support. Her Aunt Catherine, who seldom involved herself in family disputes, left a surprisingly firm message. "I have witnessed your mother's actions before, Lisa. She did the same to me concerning your father. Call me. We must speak." Lisa decided to begin with her father's sister, calling her back first. "Oh, Lisa," Aunt Catherine's warm voice immediately filled the line. "I have been terribly concerned. Are you all right?" "Not entirely," Lisa admitted. "I don't comprehend what is happening, Aunt Kath. Why would Mom do this?" "Because you represent a threat to her," she said simply. "You always have since you were young. So capable, so independent. Deborah requires control, needs to be needed for everything. When that is challenged, she reacts." "By turning my sister against me, by prohibiting me from the wedding?" "It is her pattern," Catherine sighed. "She did the same to me when I was your age. Your father and I were always close, but when he met Deborah, things changed. She manufactured conflicts where none existed. Told your father I had made terrible remarks about her. By their wedding, I was also unwelcome." Lisa sat down heavily, processing this revelation. Dad never mentioned that. "Thomas has always prioritized peace over confrontation, especially with your mother. We eventually reconciled, but years later, and things were never quite the same," her voice softened. "But this is not about old history. This is about interrupting the pattern now, before your relationship with Rebecca is irreversibly damaged." After speaking with Catherine, Lisa called her closest friend from college, Andrea, a therapist. Without divulging confidential details, Andrea helped her understand the underlying dynamics. Narcissistic patterns, triangulation, the golden child scapegoat dynamic that had influenced her relationship with Rebecca since childhood. The most crucial aspect, Andrea emphasized, is safeguarding your own boundaries while allowing Rebecca the space to find her way back. She has been manipulated as well. Remember that. Lisa was still processing this advice when her phone rang again. It was James, Rebecca's fiancé. "Lisa," he sounded genuinely distressed. "Thank heavens you answered. It has been absolute chaos here. Rebecca has been weeping for hours." "What occurred, James?" Lisa kept her voice neutral, not yet ready to extend trust. "We discovered what your mother has been doing, the lies she has been telling, the emails she altered." His voice trembled slightly. "Lisa, Rebecca never knew you were excluded from dress shopping. Your mother told her you couldn't make it, showed her texts from you canceling." "What? I never sent any such texts." "We understand that now. Your mother apparently fabricated fake conversations to show Rebecca, making it appear you were too busy or indifferent to wedding activities." His voice hardened. "When we confronted her, she confessed to changing contact names on Rebecca's phone and even routing some of your texts to her own device. The level of deliberate manipulation was staggering. But what about when you saw each other in person? Surely you could sense something was wrong?" "We barely spent time alone over the past few months. Mom always had an excuse for why you couldn't attend wedding events. And when we did meet, she was invariably present, controlling the conversation, interpreting everything you said in the worst possible light afterward." Rebecca looked up as James approached the table, having joined the call from another phone. "She poisoned everything." James sat down, placing 3 coffees on the table before taking a seat beside Rebecca. "Lisa, I am so incredibly sorry. I should have recognized what was happening sooner." "How did you discover it?" Lisa asked. "The cancellation of the honeymoon was the turning point," James explained. "When Rebecca received the notification, she was utterly confused because she had no idea about the Bali trip. Your mother claimed you had promised this extravagant honeymoon and then vindictively canceled it after being, in her words, rightly excluded from the wedding." "But that made no sense," Rebecca interjected. "Why would you spend thousands on a honeymoon for us if you were as resentful as Mom claimed?" "So, we began investigating," James continued, checking phone records, comparing message timestamps. Once we started searching for inconsistencies, the entire fabrication crumbled. The final proof emerged when we found a folder on your mother's tablet. She had actually saved screenshots of the fake conversations she created, likely to maintain the consistency of her narrative. Lisa pushed her folder across the table. "I brought my own evidence, bank transfers, original emails, everything." As Rebecca and James reviewed the documents, their expressions transitioned from shock to horror, then to indignant realization. The contrast between Lisa's genuine words and actions and her mother's distorted portrayal was stark. "That day at your parents' house," James said, addressing Lisa, "Rebecca believed we were meeting to clear the air about misunderstandings. She had no idea your mother was planning to ban you from the wedding." "I froze," Rebecca admitted, shame evident in her voice. "When Mom began uttering those terrible accusations, claiming we had all agreed, I was in shock. By the time I processed what was happening, you were already gone." Her hand reached for Lisa's across the table. "Lisa, I never agreed to exclude you from my wedding. Never. You are my sister, my best friend. I cannot marry without you there." The validation of her experience brought an unexpected surge of emotion. For months, she had been gaslit into doubting her own perceptions, questioning her worth within her family. "We must address Mom," Lisa stated, once she could trust her voice again. "This behavior is not normal. It is deliberate, calculated manipulation." "It becomes worse," James said grimly. "After you departed that night, Rebecca confronted your mother. The things she said, the venom, it was as though she transformed into a different person." Rebecca nodded. "She admitted to everything, but without remorse. She claimed she was protecting me from your negative influence. When I stated I wanted you back in the wedding, she threatened to withdraw all financial support and inform everyone in the family that I was having a pre-wedding breakdown." "Just as she has been claiming about me," Lisa murmured. "Precisely," James confirmed. "It is a tactic she employs to discredit anyone who challenges her." They spent the next hour mapping the full extent of her mother's manipulation: the falsified texts, the diverted invitations, the rumors disseminated throughout their social circle, the financial control. Each revelation built upon the last, constructing a comprehensive picture of calculated emotional abuse spanning decades. "I have arranged a meeting," Lisa finally announced, "with Dad, Aunt Catherine, and a few other family members who need to be apprised of the truth. A neutral family intervention of sorts." "When?" Rebecca asked. "Tomorrow evening. Will you attend?" Rebecca nodded without hesitation. "Without question. It is time everyone understood the truth." The family meeting the following evening proved both challenging and necessary. They convened in Aunt Catherine's living room. Lisa, Rebecca, and James, their father, Aunt Catherine and Uncle Paul, and their maternal grandmother, Martha, who had specifically requested to be present after receiving distressing calls from her daughter. Lisa presented the evidence methodically, devoid of overt emotion: the counterfeit texts, the financial documentation, witness accounts of her mother's public behavior. Catherine shared parallel experiences from decades past. James recounted her mother's outburst at their apartment. Her father remained largely silent throughout the presentation, his face growing increasingly ashen as the evidence mounted. When he finally spoke, his voice was barely audible. "I was aware of some of it," he admitted. "Not the full extent, but enough that I should have intervened long ago." He looked at Lisa, his eyes filled with regret. "I chose harmony over protecting you. Hush. I am profoundly sorry, Lisa." Her mother arrived last, having been informed the gathering was a discussion about the wedding budget. Her confident entrance faltered upon seeing the assembled group and the evidence displayed on the coffee table. "What is the meaning of this?" she demanded, her eyes darting between faces. "An opportunity for truth," Lisa stated simply. What ensued was predictable, yet painful. Initial denial, accusations of a conspiracy against her, attempts to manipulate allies through familiar tactics. When these failed, rage, first cold and cutting, then hot and unrestrained. Finally, cornered by irrefutable evidence, she resorted to tears and claims of misunderstanding, of merely desiring what was best for the family. "I will not be subjected to this treatment," she declared when her performance elicited no response. "After all I have sacrificed for this family for Rebecca's wedding." "Concerning the wedding," Rebecca interrupted, standing to face her mother directly. "Lisa will serve as my maid of honor, precisely as I always intended. If you are unable to accept that and treat her with respect, then your role in both the wedding and our lives going forward will be severely limited." Her mother's face contorted with shock. "You would choose her over your own mother?" "I am choosing truth over manipulation," Rebecca replied steadily. "I am choosing health over toxicity. Your father will never permit this." Her mother turned to her husband, expectation etched on her face. For perhaps the first time in their marriage, her father did not capitulate to maintain peace. "Deborah, enough. Observe the consequences of your actions. Examine the evidence. This ceases now." The intervention did not conclude with a neat resolution. Her mother departed in a fury, vowing retribution for their perceived betrayal. But something fundamental had shifted. The pattern of manipulation had been exposed, named, and unequivocally rejected by those it was designed to control. While navigating complex family dynamics and wedding preparations remained challenging, they were no longer confronting the situation in isolation. For the first time, there was a sense of moving together toward truth and healthier relationships, regardless of the immediate implications for the wedding, now just weeks away. The week preceding Rebecca's wedding saw the fragile emergence of a new normal within their fractured family. Following the intervention, her mother had cycled through various strategies: icy silence, tearful entreaties, furious accusations, and finally a grudging outward compliance with the established boundaries. Her father had surprised everyone by remaining steadfast in his support of Rebecca's decision to reinstate Lisa as maid of honor. After decades of prioritizing peace above all else, he seemed to have discovered a reservoir of strength previously unknown. "I should have shielded both of you long ago," he confessed to Lisa during a private conversation on her apartment balcony, city lights twinkling below. "I convinced myself that silence was synonymous with maintaining peace. I was mistaken." "Why now, Dad?" Lisa asked gently. "What prompted this change?" He gazed into his coffee cup for a prolonged moment. Witnessing it all laid bare like that, the deliberate nature of it, I could no longer evade it. And truthfully, Lisa, I am weary of walking on eggshells, tired of pretending everything is fine when it is not. His vulnerability was both startling and profoundly healing. This new facet of her father, willing to acknowledge difficult truths, to apologize, to evolve, offered Lisa hope that genuine transformation might be attainable. Lisa and Rebecca had been painstakingly rebuilding their relationship day by day, their bond bruised but resilient. They had spent extensive hours processing the manipulations that had driven them apart, grieving the months of sisterhood that had been lost. I constantly ponder what might have occurred had James not uncovered those counterfeit texts, Rebecca reflected during one of their resumed reconciliation brunches, now rightfully restored to their weekly schedule. Let us not dwell on that, Lisa suggested, squeezing her sister's hand across the table. We are here now. Regarding their mother, the family had presented clear conditions. She could participate in the wedding, but her role would be significantly curtailed. No more unilateral decisions, no private consultations with vendors, no attempts to isolate or manipulate family members. And should I decline these terms? She had inquired, the question dripping with disdain. Then you will attend solely as a guest, with no influence over any aspect of the ceremony or reception, Rebecca had stated firmly. To everyone's astonishment, their mother eventually acquiesced, though her compliance appeared more strategic than sincere. Flashes of resentment in her eyes, quickly masked by a veneer of artificial pleasantness, conveyed the underlying truth. Lisa's personal journey through this ordeal had been unexpectedly transformative. The initial devastation had given way to clarity regarding family dynamics she had normalized for far too long. Working with a therapist specializing in family trauma, she began to recognize patterns of enabling behavior and people-pleasing in herself that had made her susceptible to manipulation. Your worth is not determined by what you provide to others, Dr. Marshall reminded her during a particularly challenging session. Not financially, not emotionally, not practically. These words became a guiding principle as wedding preparations entered their final phase. Lisa resumed her role as Maid of Honor with a newfound sense of boundaries. Yes, she would help coordinate the bridesmaids and assist Rebecca with last-minute details. No, she would not deplete her savings or compromise her well-being to manage everyone else's emotional landscape. She had also rebooked a modified version of the honeymoon package for Rebecca and James, still a generous gesture but scaled to reflect her redefined understanding of healthy giving. This is a gift, freely given, with no conditions attached, she told them when presenting the revised itinerary, emphasizing it was not a payment for inclusion or affection. The wedding day dawned sunny and clear, a beautiful counterpoint to the emotional turbulence of preceding months. The ceremony was scheduled for 4 o'clock that afternoon at the Clayton Hotel, allowing the morning and early afternoon for preparation. Her mother adhered to her promised behavior, though the effort was visibly taxing. Her interactions with Lisa were minimal, but outwardly cordial, her attention focused on impeccably fulfilling the role of mother of the bride for the assembled guests. As Lisa helped Rebecca into her wedding dress, the one she hadn't been present to witness her choose, she felt a fleeting pang of sorrow for the uncomplicated joy this day should have held. Rebecca caught her expression in the mirror. I wish we could erase the last few months, she said softly. I do not, Lisa found herself replying. As painful as it was, it brought truth into the open. We can build something healthier now. Rebecca turned to face her, radiant in ivory lace. When did my older sister become so wise? Probably around the time my younger sister became so brave, Lisa responded, carefully adjusting her veil. The ceremony proceeded beautifully. Lisa stood proudly beside Rebecca, holding her bouquet as she and James exchanged vows filled with authentic emotion. Her mother sat in the front row beside their father, her composure flawless, her eyes occasionally meeting Lisa's with an unreadable expression. It was during the reception that the most unexpected moment of healing occurred. As guests mingled during the cocktail hour, Lisa found herself momentarily alone near the gift table, straightening some displaced cards. The calligraphy is exquisite, her mother's voice came from behind her. That was your initiative, wasn't it? Lisa turned, bracing herself for criticism veiled as a compliment, but her mother's expression held something she rarely saw directed at her: genuine appreciation. "Yes," Lisa answered simply. "Rebecca mentioned she admired hand lettering, so—" Her mother nodded, an uncomfortable silence stretching between them. Finally, she spoke again, her voice lower, less assured. "You have always possessed that ability to notice details about people, what they cherish, what matters to them. I never had that gift." The admission, seemingly small yet incredibly significant coming from her, left Lisa momentarily speechless. "The therapist Catherine recommended," her mother continued, looking anywhere but at Lisa, "states I need to practice acknowledging others' strengths without feeling diminished by them." A brief, humorless laugh. "Apparently, I have considerable work ahead in that area." "You are seeing a therapist?" Lisa couldn't conceal her surprise. "Your father insisted after everything." She trailed off, then squared her shoulders. "I do not anticipate this will instantly mend things between us. I understand that will require time, if it is even feasible, but I am making an effort." It was not an apology. It was not a complete transformation, but it represented a minuscule crack in the fortress of denial she had constructed around herself. And for that day, it was sufficient. 1 month after the wedding, their family tentatively began attending group therapy sessions. Her mother initially participated reluctantly, but with increasing willingness, as the therapeutic framework offered acceptable avenues to articulate her needs without resorting to manipulation. Her father gradually found his voice, articulating long suppressed truths. Lisa and Rebecca strengthened their sisterhood, now grounded in mutual respect rather than codependent dynamics. Lisa's personal healing journey continued independently. She established clearer boundaries in all her relationships, not solely with family. She learned to recognize when her inclination to help veered into unhealthy territory. And most importantly, she began to value herself independently of what she could provide or do for others. Tyler had remained her anchor throughout the entire ordeal, his steadfast support unwavering. 6 months after Rebecca's wedding, during a weekend hike to their favorite mountain overlook, he proposed. "Yes," Lisa responded without hesitation, but with one caveat. He raised an eyebrow, awaiting the condition. "Our wedding planning remains strictly between us. Small committee, clear boundaries, absolutely no drama." His laughter resonated across the valley below them. "Deal." Life continued to unfold in the ensuing years. Her mother's progress was marked by fluctuations, some days demonstrating genuine growth, others relapsing into old habits. Her father discovered a newfound confidence that revitalized not only his marriage, but also his long-deferred personal pursuits. Rebecca and James welcomed their first child, making Lisa an aunt to a little girl whose middle name, Lisa, brought tears to her eyes. And Lisa learned perhaps the most profound lesson of all, that forgiveness does not necessitate forgetting, that boundaries are not impediments to love, but rather foundations for its healthiest expression, and that standing firm in one's own inherent worth is not selfish, but absolutely essential. The journey from that devastating evening when her mother uttered those cruel words, "We are all in agreement. You are not invited to the wedding," to where Lisa stands now, was neither direct nor effortless. It demanded courage to confront painful truths, wisdom to discern healthy relationships from toxic ones, and strength to demand the respect she deserved. For those navigating similar family challenges or experiencing painful exclusions, remember that sometimes the most challenging boundaries to establish are the very ones that ultimately pave the way toward healing. Your worth is not determined by others' ability to recognize it. And occasionally, when the door to reconciliation appears firmly closed, it is in fact the initial step toward opening a healthier one. Hearing others' experiences can offer perspective and connection.